Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
It's really what the Britfield series is all about. It's to counter all of this. It's kind of the opposite of the Harry Potter, which was really just to bring, witchcraft and black magic and occultism in the hearts and minds of children. And it's a $34 billion franchise and counting. Star Wars is a $68 billion franchise and counting. So really countering a lot of those narratives. That's what we're doing. And the thing is we could sit here all day and complain about what's out there. And look, evil's evil. And there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, this stuff's been happening not just for decades, but for centuries. You always have an evil satanic cabal that are pushing really what are communism. It's divide and conquer, and pushing and promoting this stuff. Nobody's interested in it, by the way. It's not even 1% of the entire population, although they want to make you think it's 10 to 20%. Not even 1%. And it's really a complete terrific. It's very unnatural. It's ungodly. So what we need to do as a nation, and what we need to do as a global nation, and a global brotherhood and sisterhood, if you will, is push back. Number one, don't buy it and complain and go for alternatives. It's just like the educational system right now, at least in the United States, we're in an educational reformation, just like Martin Luther 500 years ago. And we're seeing the last days of the traditional industrial model of the public school system. And that's obviously horrific in many ways. There's great teachers out there. And so God bless you, you know what I mean, for the teachers that are fighting the good fight. But you're seeing a massive homeschool revolution. We've gone from 5 million to almost 20 million homeschoolers in the last 4 years. That's huge. And the best, most well-rounded and educated kids I've ever seen are homeschoolers. So those are some things that you can do. If you have a problem with it, do something about it. Don't allow them to push you with fear, but push you into action. Counter it. Don't accept it. Call them on the table. We need good people. We need good teachers. We need men and women to get on these boards and these certain things, start their own companies. There's a huge gap out there for the independent entrepreneurs again. I think we're in a renaissance right now. We're in a creativity renaissance. We're in a creativity revolution. All these things are happening. All these good things are happening. So all you see, unfortunately, is the negative, because 96% of all media, television, and newspapers is owned by 5 to 6 corporations that are pushing an agenda that, frankly, nobody wants, no one's interested in. We're not a divided nation. People don't like this stuff. It doesn't stick. It's not natural, but they'll keep shoving it and pushing it. So start to shove and push back.
Creativity in the war for humanity. Welcome back to More War Monday. The Rob Maness Show is live on Worldview Tube, our X-Spaces simulcast, Rumble, YouTube, Truth Social Plus, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Roku. Well, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, social credit systems. What comes to mind when you hear those terms? An assistant, an editor, mathematical computations, warfare and its decision-making, the new God, the surveillance state, super soldiers. What about the peace that everybody wants to know about? And that is, where are we going? I'm not being hyperbolic. All of this is possible in today's world and much, much more. So how does humanity prevent its own destruction by a digital God? By teaching our children to keep creating, learning to communicate effectively, and innovatively using what? The tool that AI is to constrain its use to a moral and ethical approach that protects the best of what we are. Yes, we're literally in a war to preserve humankind as the world around us changes more rapidly than ever before. Well, my guest today has spent his life developing an approach to education and entertainment for us, ranging from young kids to adults. That's my take on it. My And he's the author of a book series called the Britfield series, and it's soon to be a series of movies. He's called a combination of C.S. Lewis and Dan Brown. His books are a celebration of courage, friendship, and adventure, an instant classic that takes young readers on an epic quest filled with humor, warmth, intrigue, and page-turning escapades. The series provides a stunning historical, geographical, and present-day detail to enrich the reader's experience. I'm excited about it. Well, Chad Robert Stewart, or C.R. Stewart, is an international award-winning best-selling author. He's a global strategist, too, a creativity educator. He's got over 25 years of experience in writing fiction, nonfiction, and screenplays. Chad founded the Britfield Institute. He dedicated to creativity and advanced learning, and Devonfield, a media empire committed to the highest quality in education, publishing, and film production. He's got a Bachelor of Arts in British Literature and European History from Brown University. He's earned an MBA from Boston College and is pursuing a Master of Science in Advanced Management and a PhD in Strategic Innovation at Claremont Graduate University. And he's now based in San Diego. He's a strong supporter of education and the arts. Chad, welcome to the Rob Maness Show, sir. I'm excited to chat with you about your book series and how it overlays and operates in the context of all the things that I just talked about in my opening monologue. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, and thank you. That was a great introduction. I noticed the posters were different in the back. I was like, how recent was that? You guys are playing that clip, but I saw book 3 was behind me. Now book 4 is. So I was like, okay, that was last year.
Yeah. Yeah. So I found that clip and I'm like, wow, because I'd done all the reading associated with the media kit and everything. And I'm like, wow, he puts it all in a very succinct thing. And I wanted to open the show with that because I want to go far further afield than what the clip was talking about. So that's just the beginning. But, C.S. Lewis and Dan Brown, when I told my live audience before the show and the pre-show that's what this book series was considered, and you as an author were considered, how do you blend that historical and geographical, those two pieces together to become the cross between C.S. Lewis and Dan Brown? I'm curious.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. And I'm obviously more of a C.S. Lewis fan. I mean, he was a giant and amazing, and his Narnia series was incredible, with more of a uplifting and family-focused, even Christian message, as we know, using the narrative of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And it's interesting too, because when he created that series, it was really actually created for adults, and in its sense become a classic children's series. But and I think I've done a lot of that with Britfield and the Lost Crown series. I mean, it really is geared towards, if you will, middle school, young adult, and onward. But I feel like I'm writing just a great series for adults. Our youngest reader's 7, our oldest reader's 93, and 55% of our reading audience globally are adults. But I think on the Dan Brown side, I mean, again, too, I know he went way off the reservation in book 4. I'm not a fan of that particular topic and stuff, but he did capture a quick way of writing, and he's also covering a lot of current information, stuff that I remember reading Angels and Demons years and years ago, and I had never even heard about CERN and what was going on there. And so he was touching on a lot of recent stuff, or stuff that hadn't even come about. And so I think that those aspects of his writing style or popularity is also within the Britfield series. I mean, they're fast-paced action adventures. They take place in current time, which is really, really important. It's not futuristic. It's not post-apocalyptic. It's not in the past. It's happening literally here and now. In fact, when book 2, Britfield and the Rise of the Lion, came out, people were, which takes place in France, people were saying, gosh, what are you, prophetic? Because some of the stuff we were talking about was so current when I had written it 5 years prior. But again, too, like yourself, I've been relearning history for the last 12 years and have really just pulled the curtain and seeing what's going on behind the scenes. And so it's not the main topics, some of the stuff we talk about, which we can get into, but it's blended into the story because it makes sense in the current narrative. I never try to force anything in there, but it's threaded through some of these topics, like actually the dangers of artificial intelligence, quantum computers and data collection, AI manipulation, push for one world digital currency. Does that sound familiar? The hidden group that dictate world events. We call them the committee. Fake wars and fiat money systems, compromised governments and agencies, super soldiers and DNA splicing, social credit scoring to force obedience. And these are just some of the threads and topics that run through the Britfield series because they're real and they fit the narrative. And I'll stop there.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in a war, as I mentioned in my monologue, to preserve humankind. Really,
Sure.
things like artificial intelligence. The experts, I don't like the term experts anymore. I never really did like it, but after the last 15 years, experts can just take their stuff and go sit in the corner, as far as I'm concerned. But we are in a war for humankind because we have this technology. It's coming. You're not going to be able to stop it. We've known it for years. If you've ever watched the Terminator series at all, or even remember the old Matthew Broderick movie, War Games.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Classic.
Was the one that should have gotten people of our generation's attention. Even though it seemed far-fetched then, we are way beyond where War Games is in reality now. But so what I liked about when I was reading about you and your approaches is that you talk a lot about creativity and how that it's extremely important that our kids are exposed and develop their talents for creativity. How will that play a role in this battle for the war for humankind and us winning it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, I was just thinking about that yesterday when I was out in the garden, if you will, about experts. I hate that term. And I used to have creativity expert, and I'm like, no, just creativity educator. I don't like that word expert, right? Define expert. What does that mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, let me do a quick overview on creativity, if you don't mind, just a couple of minutes, because it sets the pace of where we are as a nation and the importance of creativity. But and I've said this on other shows, but for those that have never heard it, there's a gentleman by the name of George Land, and he was a researcher and writer, and he was hired by the government to create a creativity test. They had their analytical test, engineering, all the other types of tests to test adults in certain fields and organizations. And so he created this creativity test that was very successful, and he goes, I'm going to put it into the educational system and see how children do. And so he tested thousands of 5-year-olds. And 98 out of 100 were off the charts. Brilliant, little geniuses. And just from all different backgrounds, because that's really how children are. Children are created in God's image. They're created with the gift of creativity, with talent, with purpose, a reason to be here. And then he tested them again at age 10, and it dropped down to 30%. Tested them again at 15, and it dropped down to 12%. And so in 10 years, you went from 98 to 12%. And so basically the conclusion was that schools were educating creativity out of children and out of kids. Another woman by the name of Dr. Kim did a research of over 300,000 test scores and over a 20-year plus period. She found out that since the 1990s, schools have killed curiosities and passions, narrowed visions, lowered expectations, stifled risk-taking, destroyed collaboration, narrowed minds, killed deep thoughts and imagination, forced conformity, solidified hierarchy. And as a result, children are less expressive, less energetic, less humorous, less imaginative, less talkative, less verbally expressive, less unconventional, less lively, and less passionate. And I'm just kind of setting the base. So on one side, for 30 to 40 years, we have been, as a nation and even globally, in a creativity crisis, going down specifically in 10 areas at a 45-degree angle every single year. On the other side, creativity is the number one most important skill set in the world based on research and documents and articles. Number one, it's not AI, it's not technology, it's not engineering, it's not architecture, it's not medicine, and it's not legal. It's creativity. It's having the ability to look at things from a different way, brainstorm, adapt, shift, move. And so creativity is number one most important skill set. Communication is the second most important skill set in the world. And storytelling, believe it or not, is the third most important skill set. And so our books are really focused on that. Number one, like just real quick, book one takes place in England, starts up in Yorkshire, present day, about an orphan by the name of Tom, been an orphan his whole life. He's been at Weatherly for 6 years. This is the year he's going to escape, but he's not going anywhere without his best friend, Sarah. Somewhere along the lines, they commandeer a hot air balloon and escape, but they're relentlessly chased by the illustrious detective Gowerstone, and there's this royal mystery threaded throughout Britfield and the Lost Crown. What is Britfield? And right before Tom escapes, he finds out his parents might still be alive. And so I say all of that to say that through this fast-paced action adventure, We bring in, family, friendship, loyalty, courage, and hope. These books are educational. We call it stealth education. Children, adults are learning about geography, art, architecture, history, and culture. And then we blend in the 4 C's: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. And what I've said before, and I'll stop, is that no one's going to learn, children aren't going to learn anything from reading a Harry Potter book when you solve your problems with a magic wand or a secret spell, because that's not real world, that's fantasy world. And these books are designed to do 3 things: disconnect kids from reality, make them feel less than they are, right? If I just had superpowers. And number 3, introduce really nefarious agenda and topics that shouldn't be in books at all. And I'll stop there. But that's what these books are inspiring: real circumstances, real situations where the characters are talking about things, communicating, collaborating, using critical thinking, coming up with ideas, sometimes failing, and then failing forward, if you will, and saying, we don't do that again, and sometimes having the right answers and moving forward and stuff. And the whole narrative is as authentic and real as possible.
Absolutely. Well, we've got to take our first break, Chad, but when we come back, I want to dive into this AI piece a little bit. We'll have an open clip about the dangers of AI and persuasion. We'll be right back with C.R. Stewart, author of the Britfield book series. I'm Rob Maness.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com.
But you mentioned an important point. You said that algorithms can hack the human mind. And I agree. I think we're seeing algorithms hack our mind already. We say to ourselves, all right, cool, I'm only going to spend half an hour on TikTok today. And people end up spending 3-4 hours on TikTok. That applies to all platforms. So we're already seeing algorithms do that. But, going back to the original point is that as it gets more and more intelligent, don't you worry that it could hack our decision making? For example, we're responsible for building in checks and balances. Do you think it could not, persuade us to remove them?
What I fear about China is not AI on the battlefield or cyber warfare. Both of them very powerful forces, by the way. Something to fear, but not the most fearsome. The most fearsome is persuasive AI. I call it persuasive AI. I don't think it's a formal term. That used on human beings is a problem. Now, the optimistic side of me said every human will have an AI agent that protects them. Every time I'm about to click on something and buy it because some persuasive AI convinced me to buy things I don't need, my AI agent may actually rationally oppose that other AI or talk to me and say, do you really need to do this? Or does this align with what you want to do with your money, your goals, your life? So I do think every human being will have a personal agent looking after their interests. And that won't be an advertising model. I think it will be a protective model, and maybe other AIs only talk to my AI agent, not me, which would be nice. I don't know how this plays out, but this is all speculation. But it's one possible scenario that's, I think, very likely. I think unprotected humans will not be the most likely scenario.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's More War Monday. My My guest today is author and global strategist C.R. Stewart, Chad Stewart, the author of the Britfield book series. It's a 7-book series that starts at about 12 years old is where the characters are, I think, and they grow and age as the series goes on. And it's set in present day. It's using a positive creativity model to teach critical thinking and how to address real world situations, work together in a collaborative way, etc. And one of the things it's designed to do really is to help us grasp what you just heard. I don't know if you heard it there, but the words persuasion and AI agent, artificial intelligent agent, were the words that caught my ear when I listened to that clip as I was researching for the show today, Chad. And the war that we're in is not just an information war, although that's a big part of it. It's not a kinetic war all the time, although that can be a big part of it. It's not even on the battlefield. It's not even in the command and control systems where AIs are being developed to help humans make decisions. It's in the area of persuasion. And that technique that the guest for Mario Nawal is who the host was on that show, but his guest was talking about is something that I have not heard many people talking about. And your book attempts to help kids understand this, and it uses courage, friendship, and adventure, as you said before. How do you weave that into your stories to help the kids gain the skills necessary to navigate things like what we're talking about with AI?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, you hit a lot of things there. It's funny, too, when you talked about the Terminator movie, and I remember seeing a quote that said the Terminator wasn't a movie, it was a documentary. And that is sort of their end goal. And I will say something about AI, too, and we addressed that, especially in Book 4, Britfield and the Eastern Empire, which we launched in January. Starts in Vienna, ends in Moscow, Russia. We include 11 different countries. And that's one of the threads that we weave through it as far as the AI world. And AI is painfully flawed. Number one, it's been around for decades, so it's nothing new. And the more flash over substance and the more hype you see about something is when you really want to become very, very suspicious. And the one thing that AI isn't and never will be is creative. It doesn't have those capabilities. It can plagiarize and take other people's artwork from a huge system and blend it into something. It can take, books and novels and sentences and blend it into something. But it's not anything, in my opinion. There are aspects like anything else. I mean, the cell phone has been incredible. It can be hugely dangerous and ridiculous and track you and listen to you and not necessarily great for kids. And it should never be at a dinner table and it should never be at a restaurant. But there's great aspects of that too, just like the internet. The internet was designed to enslave us, and it's actually enlightened us and has given us a great resource to a global world. But we have to do our research and we have to spend time with it. AI has different aspects of it too, but it's not creative, never will be creative. And so it's a great foundation that I was setting with creativity. Number one, the creativity crisis that's all been manufactured. Nothing is by accident. Billions of dollars of our own hard-earned money was put into undermining the educational system and making it literally one of the worst in the world. But that's changing. We're in an educational reformation. We're seeing the beginning of the end of the public socialistic educational system based on a factory model, which is outdated, horrific, and awful, and not working. You're seeing the homeschool revolution that you saw in my clip at the beginning, which is exciting. Best educated kids I've met are homeschooled. And I'm answering your question with giving a foundation to it. But the book series is great because they're fun, fast-paced stories that engage the reader, specifically, our sort of young adult audience, also our adult audience. But we're blending in real situations, real circumstances. And so, like I said, it's almost stealth education, stealth teaching, because watching how Tom and Sarah react, and we know how kids are too, especially at 10, 11, 12 years old, hugely impressionable. Like when I saw Star Wars at 10, I wanted everything. I wanted Star Wars. bedspread, wallpaper, lightsaber. I would dress in a robe. I mean, just hugely impacted by something that has really grabbed and gravitated us to it. Harry Potter had that aspect with kids, but on the very negative side. Witchcraft is the fastest growing religion in the world. And if you look at each movie as a massive marketing campaign for a product, you had almost $1 billion spent on marketing marketing Harry Potter series, which is, like I said, a $34 billion franchise and growing. But the books, the Britfield series is just great. That engages the characters, engages the readers. It gives real life characters to associate with, to aspire towards. I mean, we just got this wonderful cast of characters. It's not just about Tom and Sarah at 12 years old in book one, and then they grow, like you said, in each book, which is important, from 13 to 14 to 15 in book four. But we've got, Oliver, who's a college student at Oxford University, that has a small role in book one, and then we bring him back in book two, and he's now 21 years old. And then we have Kate, who's sort of a behind the scenes, truther, if you will, posting, exposing corruption and stuff, hiding behind the scenes. She's kind of in her early 20s. She's just really, really cool, very, very tech savvy, very smart. And I have a great battle in book four, without giving anything away, where basically the human mind outsmarts AI as they're trying to literally tank the entire global stock market and introduce a one world digital currency. And it's through the human mind and the human thoughts and the creativity that they conquer it. And so those are kind of the things that we blend in. It's the courage that runs through the whole story about, in their difficult situations that they're constantly in. They're chased by this group called the Committee, which is a sort of shadow government behind the scenes, trying to destroy the Britfield bloodline, which you'll get into in book one and stuff. And so by just giving so many different examples of them, approaching problems, overcoming them, discussing them, we're impacting children. And we know that because we're getting feedback and letters literally from around the world, everything from New Zealand to South Africa to Canada to England to Germany to Brazil, of the impact that the books are having, because kids can relate to the stories. You can't relate to the Avengers. You're not Superman. You're not Batman with $1 billion and all this, sophisticated tech. You're not Spider-Man that's been bit by a scientific spider. Kids can't relate to that. And what it does is it disconnects them from reality and gives them a false narrative on how to overcome problems, because you can't. In Britfield, you're reading these kind of problems and you're learning how to think, you're learning how to approach things, how to discuss things, how to have open communication, that you're not an island, that you're not just only solely independent, but you need others to help you, and that adults aren't all bad, but have your best interest. And there's great adults out there that want to help and elevate and lift you up and stuff. And so it's a beautiful blending, heart-warmed story with family as the number one main narrative that threads through the whole series, with no other weird agendas or false narratives.
So when your characters are faced with artificial intelligence, what kind of skills do they display? And I don't want you to give anything away either.
Sure.
But part of this is digital misinformation capability that is just on steroids. You mentioned that look, it's still a machine. It's not going to be. It's never going to be creating its own stuff. It's just taking stuff from everything. I tell people all the time, look, artificial intelligence is just a computer.
Yeah.
It's still garbage in, garbage out. I started out in my college life as a COBOL, Fortran, and BASIC programmer and machine language guy. We taught machines how to learn through their own language, through machine language on their own and those kind of things. We've given them more access to more data. We've given them more speed. What kind of skills do your characters use to win that battle you were talking about?
Yeah, and again, too, it's there's all kinds of themes and stories going through, like in book four. There's the main adventure of Tom, Sarah, and that group. But Kate's the sort of computer genius, and so she's already she works for a group called the Resistance, which are like yourself, resisting what's out there, resisting the negative feedback, the cabal, the secret shadow government, the committee, whatever you want to call it. And it's her team of hackers that are working against this quantum computer, which is an amazing, fast, paced, running, millions of bits of information, if you will.
Yeah.
And then the AI that's kind of manipulating the system and stuff, and it's literally outthinking it and outflanking it and attacking it, and hitting it from a lot of. Actually, the scenario that we use, without giving too much away, is by finding a back door into the system and then lighting a lot of little fires. What happens is with AI encryption, it's almost organic. And there was a James Bond movie, and if you ever want to know what the cabal is up to, if you will, the usual suspects are up to, watch the most recent James Bond movies, because they're always going to be carrying that narrative, or Mission Impossible. They're always going to be carrying that narrative. And I think it was the third movie with Daniel Craig, and there was a system towards the end, if you remember it, and it was this big computer, and they hacked into this guy's laptop, and it was very kind of organic, and it was moving. And that's kind of what the AI encryption system does. It means it's not stagnant, and it just has a certain framework. It's like when you're attacking it, then it's finding your weaknesses and attacking you back, and always counterattacking and stuff like that. And so what they've done is they've gotten in there, and what they've done is what I call is like lighting a lot of little fires and overwhelming the AI system, and it starts to destroy itself. It's pretty cool, and it's a very cool scene. But bottom line, the whole idea was thinking outside the box, thinking creatively, and thinking out how to outsmart the computer, which you can, if you will, because we're human and we're not robots, and we're not one-dimensional in many ways. And people tend to forget, as they keep promoting AI as the God of all and the savior of everything, which it isn't. It's just another lie from the father of lies. Is that who programmed it to begin with? Humans. You know what I mean? It's just like the only existence of AI is because of human input, like you said. I mean, it's really like a calculator on steroids, and it's garbage in, garbage out. It's not going to be able to do whatever it cannot do and stuff. And I've talked to some of the greatest experts out there, and they've drank the Kool-Aid, and then they're just so excited that it'll have its own soul, and it'll have its own mindset, and it'll have human capacities, and it's. Again, there's nothing new under the sun, right? This is the same lie that's been around century after century. God's done such a bad job with the human race, et cetera, the human body, whereas, God's done an amazing job. The human body is extraordinary. The human mind is extraordinary. I'll stop there. Yeah.
It sure is. Well, we got to take another break. When we come back, though, I want to go into the biotech world because that's a big issue, too. And when you combine it with AI, I think lethal. That probably presents the most complex problem the kids that are reading this book are going to face in their adult lifetimes. We'll be right back with author C.R. Stewart of the Britfield series of books. It's fascinating to listen to this. I got to buy a copy of this series for my grandchildren. We'll be right back.
They just proved in a dish that it's possible to create soldiers who could survive chemical warfare, nuclear fallout, battlefield wounds, and things that would destroy normal men. So it's super soldiers. Tardigrades, if you don't know, are also called water bears. They can survive extreme radiation, boiling and freezing temperatures, outer space vacuums, decades without food or water. And they do this by producing something called DSUP, a DNA shield that acts like a microscopic body armor. Now, that armor is essentially being stitched into human DNA. The age of super soldiers isn't science fiction anymore. So, your your Captain America is now a laboratory fact. So it doesn't stop there, though. Leaked Chinese military documents show research into enhanced cognitive function through brain implants, exoskeletons to increase strength and endurance, brain-machine interfaces for controlling drones by thought, synthetic biology to create soldiers adapted to harsh battlefield conditions. One PLA paper even discusses hybridizing animal traits into human soldiers. So essentially real-world mutants. And that's happening right now, guys.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's More War Monday, and we're talking with author C.R. Stewart. Chad Stewart is with me today, and we're discussing his Britfield series of books, which are for young adults through adults. There's 7 books in the series. I think book 4 has just been showcased and released not too long ago. A movie of the first book is going to be made, and it looks like there's going to be a whole series of these books, and it's fascinating because they're in today's time period, in the reality of today, not in a fantasy world, not in a post-apocalyptic world like a Terminator show and those kind of things. These kids and young adults, as they grow and age through this book series, are facing real-world problems and learning how to be creative, think critically, and work together as a team with the different characters in the book to solve real-world problems. And Chad, what you heard there, right there, is not a movie.
No.
It is real. We're talking about gene and DNA splicing of animal traits into human beings. I think everybody's probably seen the exoskeleton technology that we've seen today. Most people have seen the robotic dogs and those kind of things. When I was researching the show, I came across a little clip that I'd seen a while ago, but it's a humanoid robot on a shooting range. And there's two test human beings with the humanoid robot, and it's firing real weapons. And it's one of those moving target type ranges where they're giving it different situations, including like hitting it on the back of the head, giving it a choice between a real human being and or that's a good guy, and a human being that's a bad guy, and it has to make decisions. And it's pretty incredible, but it's hard to tell whether that is animation and a combination of artificial intelligence. But that clip you just heard is actual footage talking about real scientific information, real scientific activity that's actually occurred. Do your characters face these types of soldiers, like super soldiers and this type of biotechnology and other types of biotechnology as they face real world situations?
Yeah, and I'm quite aware of all this. And as you're talking, I'm thinking of so many things. Obviously, this stuff has been around for decades, if not longer. Especially it was accelerated in the 1930s, and then obviously in Nazi Germany. Yeah. And then all that technology just it never ended. There's a great book out there by Jim Marrs called The Rise of the Fourth Reich. If you really want a mind-blowing book that's extremely well researched on really what happened in World War II and what happened after World War II and why we are here today. They talk a lot about that. There was the boys from Brazil. That's very accurate of what happened and what was happening down there in South America and Argentina with cloning. Mm-hmm. And so this stuff has been around, and basically the stuff you're seeing right now, the little robot dog, it's kind of funny because what you're seeing right now, they're 50 to 100 years ahead of what you're seeing right now coming out in advancements and stuff. And that's the way they always kind of roll it out. And they'll also use movies. I was thinking about even RoboCop. Remember that in the 80s? Mm-hmm. And again, or The Terminator. Like that, like they said, that wasn't a movie. That was a documentary. That's their dream. That's their goal. These are anti-God, if you will, anti-human. They hate humanity, and pushing for, if you will, global extinction. But no, our books do. We do deal with it, especially in book 2. But we don't go deep. We don't go deep in any of these things. We don't hit like our sort of middle schoolers or young adults with these heavy topics, but we do touch on it. We thread it through, and we plant those seeds. And in book 2, we talk about that. We talk about there's this villain that they're facing. He's sort of like 7 foot tall, and just has freakish strength and awareness, and just in 2 little paragraph discussions, it was between Inspector Fontaine, who's our French ally, if you will, kind of 30s and stuff, but real smart. And then Detective Gowerstone, which we bring back from book one. And again, I don't want to give anything away. He's kind of in his 40s, and he's the one that's kind of informing her, like, because they're like freaking out, like, what is that thing? And Gowerstone talks about how what they're doing. It's a super soldier, and what they're doing is they're splicing DNA, and the gentleman that with that clip just touched on it, but they've been doing this thing for decades, where they're taking aspects from different animals, whether it's speed, of a leopard or something like that with great speed, and they're taking those traces of DNA and they're splicing them into a human. Awareness, as far as hearing, they're splicing those in. Freakish strength or sort of inhuman strength, they're taking that from whatever, gorillas or apes or things like that. Whatever they can do to blend it into a human being, which it no longer becomes a human being when you start splicing those things. And then technology, and you're seeing that more and more now, whether it's a bit into the head and things like that. But all of this is unnatural. All of it has a horrific end game in it, in the sense of not just their objective, but for the very person or human being or body that it's being put into, because the body will reject that, and they'll have catastrophic failure. But I hope I can go deeper, but I'm just giving you a quick overview and stuff. But the stuff's been around for a long time, decades. The little by little they're bringing it out. We do touch on it in a very delicate way, but it's nice because we do plant those seeds, because it's reality, it's truth. The books are based on real places, real things. So
I mean, we have to educate the kids on how to deal with this kind of stuff. Well, we've got a hand up in our live audience. I want to go ahead and take that question before we get to the break, Chad. Go ahead. Rob's our host over there. Go ahead, Rob.
All right, Colonel, we have Lisa. Lisa, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the mic. When you were speaking about the schools and them taking creativity away from the children, would you happen to know anything about Montessori schools and how they differ from the schools that our children go to in normal, work life? And then also, would you not say that between the book and today, we're somewhere between the Minority Report and The Stand as far as movies go?
Yeah, it's good. It's interesting too. And let me ask the first question. And yeah, there are, again, too, I'm not knocking all education. The charter school system is a hybrid blend that's been relatively successful. We've got over 1,000 charter schools just in California, which go figure. And there are some great schools out there. I'm familiar with the one you mentioned, and they are a much better model. And there's not a perfect school model. You're never going to find that. I think the thing I like with the homeschool model, and again, too, for clarity, people need to understand, doesn't mean that a parent needs to stay home. You know what I mean? And it's just like it's one parent staying home and you're spending all day educating. There's so many different blends of homeschooling. You could be dropping your children off to a homeschool group. You could be doing a little bit of homeschooling, a little bit of a charter school. I mean, it's just, there's so many different aspects of it. But the more time that the child has kind of on, to explore, the more opportunity that they have. There's so many things that the parents can do to counter this thing. I mean, some of them can't pull themselves out of a public school right now, but you should be spending time with them as much as you can. On the weekends, you'd be doing creative exercises. You'd be going down to the lake and walking the lakefront and just talking about, nature. You should be going to the libraries, picking out one or two great books and reading them together in parallel and then discussing them, at the end of the month. You should do British month or French month and, play a documentary and cook something kind of fun and just give them as many experiences as you can. Take them to any kind of local museum. You don't go for the whole day, just go in there for an hour and look at some of the paintings in one room and then have your son or daughter, pick their favorite one and then discuss it with them and then go out and get some ice cream afterwards and make it fun. But you should be bringing in and blending in as much creative exercises and opportunities, because you never know what's going to stick with them. If they have an interest in playing a musical instrument, and I could talk about the importance of music and how people with a background in music are often picked 5-to-1 to 10-to-1 over other candidates that have no music background, because they have found in studies that people that play a musical instrument and can read music are better under crisis, are better managers, are better brainstormers, and can adapt and shift quickly to the changing global dynamics. For the second question, oh gosh, what was it? What'd she say?
About
Yeah, the Minority Report.
Minority
Yeah,
Report in The Stand.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And again, too, they do that. I mean, as you probably well know, because you're probably very well informed, but they'll always use movies to manipulate and to blend things in, or to get you prepared for it. That's why I was saying it's like, if you want to know what's going to go on or what the next step is, watch the most recent James Bond or Mission Impossible. In fact, the last Mission Impossible is talking about the stuff we're just talking about right now, with an AI system that's gone sort of ballistic and is now thinking for itself and overtaking everything. But again, I mean, we saw that in war games, right? It's the same story, and they're just repeating it and heightening it. And I tapped a little bit on Minority Report, and again, that's their goal. That's what they want. We talk about two things too that blends through book 1, 2, and especially in book 3 and 4, is CCTV cameras and social credit scoring, and we touch on it like within China, because right now there's one camera for every there's one camera for every 2 people in China right now. And there's quote unquote supposedly 1.2 billion people in China, 1.3 billion. I don't trust those numbers, and I don't think the
Chad,
population.
we've got to take our last break. When we come back, though, I'm going to show a clip of the real China social credit system, just to put a fine visual point on what you just said. We'll be right back with Chad Stewart, C.R. Stewart of the Britfield book series. Man, you got to go get this, because this I think is going to overtake a lot of these things that we've been seeing that have just exploded over the last years, like the Harry Potter series. This could be bigger than that. I'll be right back with Chad Stewart.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
Imagine a society where everything you do, everything you say, and everything you buy is controlled and evaluated by the authorities. It's not science fiction. In China, it's a reality. From now on, citizens' lives are rated and assessed. This is what the Chinese Communist Party calls social credit.
Here's our chart of excellence models. I'm the second one.
In Fulushan, the villages have been rated for a year. There are good citizens who contribute to the community, and bad ones, those who, for example, leave their trash out. Chong Kejong is featured on the Wall of Honor because of his exemplary behavior.
It's because I help to keep the village clean. I also help people improve our environment, and I help people become wealthier. I'm proud, but it's also a lot of pressure, because when you're on this wall, you always want to be better.
Oh, it's More War Monday, and that is part of what you're seeing right there is reality. And it's becoming reality in more and more Western countries as our technology is allowed to get out of hand without the appropriate ethical approach, or the appropriate legal approach, and the appropriate human approach. And my guest today is the author of the Britfield book series for young adults and up through adults. It's a 7-book series. They're about to make the first book into a movie. I'm excited about that. My grandchildren are going to read these books, I guarantee you. And Chad Stewart is my guest today. Chad, you know, now that Chinese social credit clip there, it didn't go into the hammer part of it. It just talked about what they think is probably a positive piece, but really is a is a persuasion in a not persuasion but coercion piece without using the hammer piece. Those kind of things. So if I leave my trash can out too long, my social credit system's going to go score's going to go down. And here's the hammer part. And if it goes down low enough, I won't be able to do things like buy a can of Coca-Cola out of a vending machine, or buy a book, or go to a movie, or go to a restaurant, will I?
No, and it's interesting. And that I was kind of circling back to the viewer's question about the Minority Report, because it's sort of predictive programming and the fact that they're arresting someone before they've even done anything. And that's kind of the idea of social credit scoring, and that would be the sort of end result. And again, too, they already know the end goal that they want to get to in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years. And just so you know, they plan things out 25, 50, and 100 years ahead of time. And it doesn't matter what happens or exposure. I always like to use global warming, which was a complete and total fraud. And when it was exposed for the fraud that it was, then it becomes climate change. And it always blends in because they want to continue their story. But no, what I was getting to the CCTV cameras is that they're everywhere. In the United States has something like we have millions of TV cameras just in the United States. Britain's brutal, especially in London, and China's the worst. But what these cameras, people need to understand too, is there's anywhere from 10 to 14 different aspects to the cameras that can pick up human markers. So you and I could be walking down the street, with glasses and a cap and a big heavy coat, and talking about something, and they're picking up the very way that I walk, or my stance, or my movement, characteristics, my voice patterns. The second I take off my sunglasses, boom, they can catch up a retinal, scan or whatever it is. And it's not in it. So the cameras can do all of that. In fact, there's some that can even penetrate into the body and read DNA. It's that spooky. And that's the idea of it. It's like 70 would be like, you could probably still buy food at 70, but if you hit a 68 score or a 65, when I go into the grocery store and I come up with my thing and I swipe my card, and they're saying, sorry, you can't get food today. Pretty soon you can't ride the bus or the tube, or get an apartment or get a job. And that's the idea of it. It's complete and total conformity. And then it will get to that Minority Report. That would be the end goal. I'm not saying it's going to get there. I'm saying that would be the end result, that because of markers, because of what we talk, we're suddenly a threat. We're red flagged. We can no longer fly. And then it's just a matter of time before they're banging down the door, because we've got, on a certain scale, or whatever their scoring system is, we've scored these many times or over a certain amount of time, and you are now a threat to society, and we will need to detain you. That is their goal. And so she was spot on. I mean, gosh, that was like 25 years ago, I think, 25 years ago, that movie. But that's what they do. They're trying to prepare you.
Oh yeah, the pandemic response here recently in the Western countries,
excellent example,
especially, is an excellent example of how badly things can go, how quickly, if the population allows it to happen. Which is one of the reasons why I like the idea behind your books, is because you're getting to the kids at a time in their lives when their brains are still forming, their ideas on society are still forming. They've gotten the building blocks of in America here, hopefully still liberty and private property, the right to life, and those kind of things for the most part. And then your books bring the real world and the real world problems that we're seeing today, every single day, to put in front of them, to help them figure out, how do we solve this? But not just solve it, but in an ethical way, in a logical way, and in a way that helps us build community, is what I'm hearing from you as I listen to you talk about it. Let's take one more question from the audience before we get to the end of the show.
Okay, great.
Rob, go ahead.
We have Colonel Burton, sir.
Hey, Chad, thank you so much. Such a good space and story. My question is, what is there a current AI model that's running right now, and where is that? And then they talk about, when you talk about AI, they talk about it's going to consume so much energy, and I still haven't been able to wrap my head around that. If you're familiar, can you talk to that?
Yeah, just to clarify the questions. One is I don't use AI at all myself. Don't need to. Although I'm sure, my laptop is using aspects of it and other things like that. But there's no interest to it to me as an author too, and as a writer. And that's the best way to counter it. You know what I mean? And like I said, everything is with balance. It's like, I'm not on my cell phone all the time, but I use it when I need to use it. And I never hold it up to my ear, obviously, because you're getting radiation. You should never have your laptop sitting on your stomach because it's radiating, and women shouldn't do that because it can cause miscarriages, etc. But I don't use AI, and so I don't have any particular model at all that I use. As far as the actual energy level, I mean, the types of stuff they have, um, lithium batteries and free energy. We've had free energy for over 100 years, and that knowledge of it. So the actual power source of it isn't an issue, although they make it. Just like fossil fuel isn't rare, and they termed it fossil fuel based on quote unquote dinosaur bones. So it's a rarity, which it isn't a rarity. The Earth actually naturally produces oil,
Right.
and we've got enough here in the United States for the next 4 or 5 centuries. But again, the rarity and control and etc. But did that answer your question, sort of?
Well, so the question I had is government using one right now? Like we have this uniparty that seems like it's sustaining,
Sure.
frankly, just horrible people in place. And I'm wondering if they're already using AI to map out and make decisions, and if they were, where that's held.
Yeah, you're seeing that just with number one, the Democratic Party doesn't exist anymore. People don't seem to realize that they've been wiped out over the last 4 years, and I'll take that. The last election with Donald Trump coming in, that was 90 to 94% a popular vote. Basically, all 50 states went red, and hopefully some of that fraud will come out. And even California's been red for decades, just so you know. We're not this socialistic, cesspool. It's just the corruption's that thick. But no, I'm getting to the point that you've seen they're using aspects of it with social media, right? I mean, everything that you see is fake. You know what I mean? Like how popular these people are on the social media or the website, and they've got all these great comments or 50 million followers. That's complete bunk. Most of those numbers are fake. We saw that coming out with Twitter, right? How many fake accounts? So they use this stuff even on the social media aspects with bots or comments or attacks on shows like this. Not even real human beings, although there are a lot. I think they had something like over 100,000 humans hired after 9/11 and their job was to counter every single thing that was going on out there. Any comment, anyone typing something in saying, "Hey, I heard this or heard that," and then their job was to immediately get in there and plant lies or negativity. So AI is in use, absolutely, in many aspects of it. To what extent they're using it, I don't know, quite frankly. But not everything is as you see. You're seeing a big show right now. I don't know. You're seeing a lot of body doubles. You're seeing a lot of interesting stuff go on, especially on the Communist Party. So, which in my opinion is over. So,
Yeah. The one of the things that is interesting is to me, and that I've noticed, especially the last, the Biden administration, is how rapidly the lefty bots are able to craft new messaging. It's almost as if they are using AI to do it, and they probably are. I mean,
Sure.
Look, if you're going to use the latest tool, that's one of the latest tools. The challenge is, man, it really spits some stuff out, and it really wraps it up, doesn't it? And threads it together, so it's very difficult to unthread to make the reality and the truth come out, so that people are getting the truth. Well, Chad, this has been fascinating, man. I've got about a minute left.
Sure.
When's the movie going to come out? I'm excited about that. And how can people go buy the book series?
Sure, we're excited. We're in pre-production now. This is a finished 7th draft script of Britfield and Lost Crown, the first of 7 major motion live action movies. No animation, and a little CGI with the balloon, but no animation. Live action, filmed in Britain. Hopefully, we'll be there in March of this year. I'm sorry, March of next year, spring of next year. Okay. Filming in England, and with a release date, a optimistic release date of November 2026, a realistic release date of November 2027, but not past that date. And for anyone that wants to support what we're doing, or buy a great book series for their children, for their grandchildren, for themselves. Just go to our Britfield.com website. I'm still signing books. So if you actually order through the website, Britfield.com website, I'm still signing books. You'll get signed books, and they're just great gifts. They're great for graduation. And I had a 93-year-old woman come up to me last week. I was at a Republican women's presentation talking about Britfield and education. And she came up to me afterwards, 83 years old, and she goes, I love the Britfield series. She goes, I just finished book 2, and she goes, I want to tell you it was fantastic. And I love getting that feedback, from people like that. It's like, it's the wonderment of childhood. It's the excitement of childhood. It's the fun of childhood, built in a very fast-paced story that blends in all these things, such as education, architecture, geography. Book 1's in England, book 2's in France, book 3's in Italy, book 4's in Eastern Europe, and so on. So.
Absolutely. Well, my friend, thank you very much. We'll have to stay in touch and get you back for updates on occasion, because folks need to know about this series and get their kids to read this book. Chad Stewart, C.R. Stewart, author of the Britfield book series. Thank you very much, sir. Tomorrow, back to Training Tuesday, and we've got Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen Reports to talk about all the lies the pollsters, other than him and Rich Barris, Big Data Polling, are putting out and trying to persuade you of what their reality is as opposed to what the truth is. I'll see you then on the Rob Maness Show.
You are watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio.
July 6, 2005. This is Tom Harper. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. We got more of a response from our viewers than anything else you and I have ever discussed.
Tom Harper, 20 years ago, he had mesothelioma, deadly lung cancer, was given weeks to live, and he just intuitively started to eat the phytoplankton out of his fish tanks because he fed the phytoplankton to his shellfish. He was a shellfish farmer. And when he went in for the surgery, the surgeon came out of the operating room and told his family, I have not ever seen anything like it. The cancer is benign, and Tom Harper lived for years. He retired in Hawaii. We're not making any claim.
Here he is in his own words.
Started on a daily routine of just taking a bit of paste, putting it in my mouth, and wash it down with a drink of water. Within about 10 to 15 days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a talc treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. I eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer, and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gadatiana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper, and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. 1 scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gadatana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.
This is Brannon House Live. Whether the issue is law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security, Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon House.
And good evening, and welcome to the broadcast on this Friday night, May 9th, 2025. It is 3 minutes to 6 p.m. Central. No, 3 minutes to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard. So we are almost at exactly 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Friday night. I am going to record this little intro for you guys as we are literally pulling out of Washington, D.C. We are about to get on 395. We have been in the nation's capital since earlier this morning, and we just grabbed a bite to eat so that we don't have to stop for many hours, and we're going to go 13 hours with the help of our two drivers, get us back to the Mid-South outside of Memphis, probably around, what do you think, guys? Around 7 a.m., you think? 7 a.m. Central? That's what we're thinking. So you pray for our safe travel, won't you? Pray for safe travel, for the drivers to stay alert, and everyone to stay in their lane, won't you? We had an amazing trip, guys. I want to bring to you tonight, in fact, what I want you to do right now, I want you to go ahead and stop and text, tweet, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, everyone you know right now. Because I have people that have been listening to this broadcast for years and years and years. And some of them said, Brannon, what you did today with your Uber driver, that interview with your Uber driver, was the best interview I have ever heard. Well, I would like to think we've had a lot of great interviews over my 35-year career, but I can see why many of you would say that was one of your favorite, right, Dolly? Because Dolly always has to get in the camera shot, who's been in a kennel all day in the back. And so she's a little wound up right now, wanting to say hi to everybody. But you're about to hear, I won't belabor the point because I introduce him here in just a minute. But I want to play for you what I did for radio and TV today. And then I want to play for you the interview I did yesterday. Some people said that was the best interview I've ever had yesterday. Isn't that interesting, Logan? So according to some, the best interview I ever did was Akeen, that you're about to hear, our Uber driver. And I'll tell you why we interviewed him. Some of you yesterday said the interview with Miss Van Fleet was the best interview I've ever done. So apparently these are two of the best interviews I've ever done in my 35-year career, according to some of you. And you might be right. Now that's the Pentagon right there, Logan. If they can get a, whoop, there you go. Well, it'll come back out of the, there you go. When we went into the restaurant to have dinner, it was dark out and rainy, starting to rain a little bit. That's the Pentagon, folks. That's where Pete Hegseth works and all the staff and military officials at the Pentagon. So we're really on the Virginia side right now. And Logan, you can swing around and get the Washington Monument right behind you. That's the Potomac right behind Logan. Now there it is, folks. And he can probably pick up the Washington Monument. I don't know what else you're going to be able to see there, Logan. You'll have to tell me when the trees part what you're seeing. But we are literally pulling out of Virginia, Arlington, Virginia. You might start seeing, I don't know, you may pick up some of the crosses here of Arlington National Cemetery. By the way, we spent hours there on this trip. Two trips to Arlington, and we didn't even get to all of it. We've got to go back. We're going to be coming back sometime in the middle of September. That's the plan. We make our plans, and the Lord decides what happens. But we need to spend more time at Arlington. But we did some amazing stuff today. I'm not going to belabor that point because I describe a little bit of that in the interview that I'm about to play. But you got to stay tuned. Our Uber driver, we did about 10 Ubers in one day. And we picked up, this gentleman picked us up and we said, he's a believer from Nigeria. You're going to hear his testimony. He's a former Muslim turned Christian from Nigeria. You've got to hear his testimony. So I'm going to tell you right now, tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, everyone you know right now and say, Brandon is getting feedback that the interview that he did today, that he's rebroadcasting, was one of the best, if not the best interview he's done in 35 years. It wasn't because of me. It was because of my great guest, Akeen. So I think you're going to be so blessed and encouraged. We're getting a lot of emails, a lot of texts, a lot of phone calls, people really blessed by this interview. And then after that, I want to go to Miss Van Fleet, who was born and raised in China in the communist revolution of Mao, and the sad similarities she sees taking place in America today. So let everyone know these are going to be two powerful interviews back to back. Everyone should watch these. Everyone should see these. And if you think I'm wrong, just watch them and then tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you don't think everyone should see these two very important interviews. So go ahead, tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, whatever you do, let them know. All right, folks, we had an amazing trip, and you guys prayed for our safety, and so far we've been safe. You've prayed for the weather, and so far we've had great weather, and when we had rain, we needed the rain, and it actually pushed crowds away, so we had more access to film. So we'll say about that more in the program. So thank you to all of you. And we asked you to pray for providential meetings. We've had those. I won't belabor that point. We'll talk about it in the broadcast later tonight. Now, we're looking to come back the middle of September. Again, we lay the plans, and we'll let the Lord decide what we do. But we'd like to come back about every quarter because we are building some amazing relationships with members of the House and the Senate and their staffers. And it really helped to be here because we were able to get more interviews by being here than we were by working the phones for 2 months. We worked the phones for like 2 months, didn't we, Logan? And we got more interviews by just being here than we did by working the phones because not all the staffers deliver the messages. The other thing, too, folks, is that there's something about meeting people in person, just letting them see you and meet you and, know what you're about by meeting you. So we want to come back and report from the Senate. We have some more things we want to do from a historical standpoint as we look to turn Worldview Tube more into a conservative Christian worldview history channel, if you will. So, yeah, I know it's not real long. I saw it coming. Logan said, giving me the eyes because he knows we're going through tunnels. I hate tunnels, hate elevators, hate tunnels. But that one was pretty quick. I saw it coming. I could see the daylight through the other window, so I'm not going to panic. Not much I can do about it now anyway, is there? But yeah, we're going to be coming back. So if you guys appreciate all we've done, by the way, you've only scratched the surface of the videos we recorded. We have so much that we're going to be bringing in post-editing for you. But if you appreciate it, we'd love to hear your feedback on what you thought about this week's programming. Brandon, Brannon, Brandon at worldviewtube.com, Brandon at worldviewtube.com. And if you appreciate what we're doing, we need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. These trips are not inexpensive to come all the way out here, the lodging, the transportation, all of that. The Ubers that we grabbed, and then finally we grabbed one Uber driver, asked him to go off the clock and drive us the rest of the week. I think after day one, we picked him up for the rest of the week. You're going to hear his testimony in a moment. What a providential meeting that was. So we're going to go to that testimony pretty quick. But folks, if you appreciate what we've done and want to help us continue to grow the network and push out free programming, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Also remember, another way you can support us is by going to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Bella Grace, I got my Numi right here, which we've been taking on the trip. You know, I've got my Bella Grace over here in the drawer. I've been taking our Bella Grace while we're on the trip. In fact, I need to take one right now, guys. Is my Gatatana in there? My Gatatana's in there as well. So, folks, we travel with this. This is not a joke to us. This is all very serious stuff, and we use it. So please consider supporting us also and supporting your health at the same time. Worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. You got to get your nose in everything, don't you, Dolly? Worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Okay, Logan, before we go to this interview with our brand new friend, Akeen, a dear man, who, by the way, also sings. And when people say, oh, I sing, you're like, oh, boy, here we go. He actually sent me a recording. He actually has a really nice voice, almost a little bit of a Ray Charles sound. And he wrote these scripture songs. He wrote them himself and recorded them in a professional studio in Nigeria when he went back. And the quality was amazing. His voice was amazing, and his scripture. And so we won't have time for that tonight, but what a wonderful man we got to meet, and you're going to be blessed by his testimony. And I was just looking to see, Logan, if there's anything to show them while Dolly mouths off. If there's anything to show, okay, Dolly, if there's anything to show them while we're pulling out of the Washington, D.C. area, but I don't, Dolly, come on. I don't think there is much we can show. I think we've seen it all. So there you go, folks. Without any further delay, let's go to this amazing testimony. I hope by now you've alerted all your friends to tune in right now because they don't want to miss this. Here it is. And then we'll go to the interview I did with Yvonne Fleet. Here is the story about our Uber driver this week. All right. So we did ask you to providentially pray that we'd meet the people we should meet. So, as I said, we had an Uber driver, multiple Uber drivers the first day, and many of them were nice. Some of them had names like Mohammed and other things. And we just kind of played it low key as to who we are, what we do. But then this car pulls up, and this gentleman has a big smile. As I got in the car, I chose to sit in the front, Melissa and Logan in the back. He has his Bible verses with stickers on the dashboard, as I said, and on the window. And I said, I love your Bible verses. And we began to talk about our faith. And he says he's from Nigeria. Well, over the next couple of days, we've gotten a chance to know more about him. And you guys have got to hear his story. Keen, we're on 74 Christian stations of VCY America Radio Network, WROS Jacksonville, and Worldview Tube. And I want to welcome you